Welcome to Surrey Place Centre's online learning opportunities. The School Support Program presents Characteristics of Asperger Syndrome in the Classroom. In this segment, we will be talking about Asperger Syndrome, or AS, one of the three autism spectrum disorders, or ASDs. Like with all the ASDs, the core challenges of Asperger Syndrome are challenges in communication, social interaction, and behavior. But with AS, there is no clinically significant delay in vocabulary and speech production. Instead, it's the social use of language known as pragmatics that is impaired. Students with Asperger syndrome are on the higher end of cognitive functioning for the ASD continuum. These students may have average to above average intelligence, with some even being in the gifted range. Students with Asperger syndrome may appear at or above expected levels in early grades because of their well-developed vocabulary, early interest in numbers and letters, and focused areas of knowledge. Difficulties often emerge in older grades where application, problem-solving, and social skills are essential. Students with AS have uneven learning profiles, showing peaks and valleys in performance. These students tend to be literal and concrete thinkers, making factual information and knowledge-based subjects strengths. For example, with reading, they may have great word attack and decoding ability with very little comprehension. Or they may have outstanding math computation skills, but can't estimate or give their answer in words. Using imagination can be difficult for these students, making it hard for them to complete creative writing, journal, and perspective-taking assignments. These students also have challenges transferring information to novel situations and context, such as using a known math skill in chemistry class. Although you won't see any delays in vocabulary and vocal expression, especially on standardized testing, language sounds different in these students. Pacing of speech, inflection, and voice tone may sound out of sync. Students with AS have been referred to as little professors because their speech can sound formal. Other communication challenges include difficulty understanding nonverbal social cues like body language, facial expressions, and posture. It is also challenging for them to form peer relationships with others their age and developmental level. They may not naturally seek out others to share enjoyment and interests. Others may appear active but odd, in that they do seek out others, but they may find it difficult to maintain interactions and friendships with their more socially skilled peers. Wendy Lawson, a psychiatrist and author of Life Behind the Glass, a personal account of autism spectrum disorder, describes the social challenges of understanding others. Over the years, I tried to contain my excitement and joy over life's happenings and watch to see what makes other people happy or sad. If they laughed or were unmoved, then this was my signal that it was all right for me to do likewise. This process was hard work, and although it helped me to be more observant of others, it robbed me of spontaneity and enjoyment of the richness of my own experience. For students with Asperger syndrome, it can be helpful to have a structured environment. These students may prefer rituals and routines, but it is important to introduce the concept of change. Adherence to a schedule may work when everything goes according to plan, but even small deviations can be unsettling to a student with AS. Most students with Asperger syndrome will have limited interests. As many as 90% of students with AS have an intense, all-encompassing special interest area. Engaging in these special interests are positive experiences for students with AS. These special interests are the key to motivating students to do their best work. Whether the student gets access to these interests as a reward or they are used to deliver curriculum as a theme or framework for learning, they can be very powerful. Whatever their interest may be, these interests are so strong that they can occupy the students every waking hour by talking, thinking, and engaging in them whenever possible. Caution should be used when controlling access to their interests, as taking them away may cause the student great distress. Their interest can be used in the classroom in many ways. It can be used as a calming ritual, a possible path to post-secondary education and a career, as well as a way to make friends with people who have similar interests. However, interests vary widely and some may be socially isolating. It might be relatively easy to find a social group who are interested in collecting baseball cards, but it's a lot harder to find like-minded peers if your favorite thing is deep fat fryers. Some interests may be appropriate at certain times, like vampires at Halloween, or in certain regions, cultures, and settings, but not others. Special interests are an untapped goldmine to motivate, calm, engage, and reward students with AS. For example, finding a paragraph on the internet describing deep fat fryers and removing all the punctuation may be motivating enough to engage a student with AS in a unit on punctuation. Marianne Winter-Messier, a key researcher in the field of special interests and author of How Far Can Brian Ride the 4449 Daylight Express, a strength-based model of Asperger syndrome based on special interest areas, describes the importance of SIAs when she said special interest areas are those passions that capture the mind, heart, time, and attention of individuals with Asperger's, providing the lens through which they view the world. Language is used for many purposes such as greeting, informing, demanding, promising, and requesting. The pragmatics of language is the social use of language. It involves three major communication skills. Adapting your language to the situation and listener, like adjusting vocabulary, voice volume, and tone, such as using motherese when you're talking to a baby. Following the rules of the group and conversation, like taking turns, bringing up new topics, and rephrasing when you aren't understood, and communicating social or emotional information. Students with AS have difficulty understanding the social rules of language. Imagine the consequences of talking to your teacher in the same way you would talk to your peers. Imagine being taught something every time your friend talks to you. You would never get a chance to talk or relate to each other on a social or emotional level. Imagine taking language literally when someone says sarcastically, "Nice shoes." Imagine never getting the joke or thinking others are laughing at you. Imagine not fitting in. Luke Jackson, an author with Asperger syndrome who wrote his first book, Freaks, Geeks, and Asperger Syndrome, at age 13, says, "For some people, school is like fitting a square peg into a round hole. For me at the moment, the hole, school, has changed its shape slightly to accommodate me. And the square peg, me, has tried to soften its edges. So a better description would be a rounded square trying to fit itself into a circle with sticky out bits." Let's take a closer look at two specific social challenges that affect individuals with Asperger syndrome: theory of mind and the hidden curriculum. Theory of mind is a core deficit in Asperger syndrome, which may help explain some of the other impairments seen in communication, socialization, and imagination. Theory of mind is our ability to understand that other people have thoughts, feelings, experiences, and intentions that are different from our own. Theory of mind is required for empathy, deceit, and humor. It is not related to intelligence, and even someone who excels academically can have challenges with theory of mind. Most of us can anticipate how others will react in a situation, what will make a friend angry or happy, recognizing when someone is sick or sad just by looking at them, expecting that you will be sad when your grandmother passes away. As you can imagine, not being able to understand and recognize others' emotions can greatly affect social interactions and relationships. Since students with AS assume other people know what they do, think like they do, feel the same way as they do, and have the same interests, they may seem insensitive. They may begin a story in the middle without realizing you need more background, or hurt someone's feelings by being brutally honest about their recent weight gain. However, it is possible for students with AS to learn compensatory skills. We can help to concretely distinguish internal thoughts using thought bubbles and what people actually say using speech bubbles to help students learn about the perspective of others. These concrete drawings photos, or explanations can be worked through with the student before and after a social interaction. Another mystery to students with Asperger syndrome is the hidden curriculum. This is a set of social rules that we all follow but were never formally taught. The hidden curriculum dictates what you wear, how you behave, when to speak, and what you talk about. It differs by age, gender, culture, and situation. We learn such rules and norms through informal observation of others in settings where these rules are at play. Our behavior is influenced by the consequences of either following or not following such unspoken rules. The weakness in learning through observation has a profound effect for the student with Asperger's ability to pick up on key social information that is not directly taught. It includes rules like not picking your nose in public, being quiet in the library, not eating someone else's lunch, keeping personal information to yourself, cleaning up your own mess, not sitting in the teacher's seat. From a very young age, we figure out which behaviors are acceptable in which contexts. For example, it might be okay or even cool to swear in front of your friends in the schoolyard, but most students know this isn't acceptable in the classroom. These distinctions may be too subtle for a student with Asperger's. This, combined with difficulties learning through observation, means these unwritten rules must often be taught directly. Students with AS tend to be rule-bound. They may stick to the rules even when they don't make sense in the situation, and they're not afraid to speak up when they feel others are violating them. For example, telling a bunch of teens hanging out in the parking lot at lunch that there's no smoking on school property. A student may have learned of the dangers of trans fats, then after reading the label refuse to eat them and caution everyone else to do the same at their friend's birthday party. Fact-focused students may be helpful for teachers and parents, but they run the risk of being social outcasts amongst their peers. Unlike the other autism spectrum disorders, young children with Asperger syndrome may have delayed motor milestones, such as sitting, crawling, and walking later than their peers. They may also be clumsy. They may have persistent difficulty with handwriting, copying accurately from the board, noting homework assignments, handling a ball, and tying shoelaces. If team sports are a big part of the social group or curriculum, as in high school, this may have a negative impact on peer relationships. Classroom accommodations may include the use of a computer, a peer note taker, advanced copies of chalkboard notes, alternative tests and assignments using fill-in-the-blank, multiple choice, or oral evaluation, allowing printing rather than cursive, additional checks to make sure accurate information is recorded, exemption from gym, and alternative clothing options. Much like all autism spectrum disorder, students with Asperger syndrome can be hypersensitive to certain sounds or stimuli, such as the buzzing of fluorescent lights, the sound of the school bell, the feeling of messy hands, or the taste of pungent foods. These students may feel overwhelmed by the sensations of the normal school day. You may see a student get nervous or afraid when an unpleasant item, activity, or event is anticipated. For example, a scheduled fire drill. A smaller number of students have the opposite reaction, seeming oblivious to things that most people would find annoying, distracting, or even painful. It is important to understand any specific sensitivities your student has so you can help them to identify their own challenges, warn them of upcoming situations where they'll have to face these, and restructure the environment to ensure that exposure is limited. Even very young students with Asperger syndrome can seem very anxious. For example, this anxiety can be related to being overwhelmed by the curriculum, changes in schedule, confusion in a social situation, or not feeling like they can meet expectations. Research has shown that people with AS are at higher risk for adult-onset anxiety disorders and depression. For this reason, we need to Help students understand our expectations, the structure for the day, and cope with change. Provide specific preemptive strategies and information when social situations arise. And devote effort in the early years to helping them recognize their own stress and triggers, then teaching self-calming through age-appropriate cognitive behavioral strategies for anxiety reduction. Some of the keys to success when working with students with Asperger syndrome that have been touched on in this module are: build on the student's strengths. Integrate special interest areas into the curriculum. Use clear, concrete communication. Increase support for application, inference, and problem solving. Ensure the transfer of skills to new situations, people, places, and tasks. Have structured routines, but prepare students for transitions and change. Use natural opportunities to reinforce how others think. Teach the unspoken rules of social interaction. Consider alternatives to handwriting. For more information on ASD, listen to one of our other online learning modules.